I rank these novels based on my enjoyment, though with consideration given to how Marsy the read was. Here are my top 10 science fiction books featuring Mars or Martians. Number 10 is The Martian Time-Slip by Philip K. Dick, published in 1964. Mars, Martians, humans on Mars, psychosis, moral lapses, discrimination, and a boy who can see the future. Martian Time-Slip is a wild ride, and it's surreal even by PKD standards. Mars is colonized, it's colonizing, it's not the best situation, the soil isn't great for farming, the infrastructure is still limited, and the power-hungry head of a powerful union is running everything. Character work and world building are some of Dick's best. He presents a strong image of the Mars that he's created and elaborates mildly on an AI-structured educational system and the native Martians. These Martians are known as Bleakmans, and they're pretty much displaced and diminished by the colonists. The protagonist suffers from mental illness, and while I'm not an expert on the topic, I can share that the ideas surrounding mental illness and neurodivergent characters is clearly dated. Guarding his mental health plays significantly in the story. Back to the head of the Waterworks Union, Arnie Cott. This guy is pretty unimpressive, but the Mars colony is a small enough pond for him to thrive in. How well and how long he thrives may just depend on the abilities of a 10-year-old autistic boy. Number 9 is China Mountain Zhang by Maureen McHugh, published in 1992. China is the dominant world leader in this far future world that has seen the economic collapse of the United States. They've also set up colonies on the moon and Mars. I'd recommend this for readers who, like me, can't get enough of China in their science fiction, and definitely for cyberpunk fans who appreciate human-computer interfacing themes. The story is set near future, and because of revolution of sorts stemming from economic collapse, climate change, and other strains, all roads lead to Chinese dominance, and it serves you well to be Asian. This is a very character-driven novel, and protagonist Zhang leans into this identity. Zhang hides the fact that he's gay, this isn't tolerable in the United States, and it's a crime in China, and exaggerates his Asian aesthetic. This is aided by some fetal bioengineering that his parents took care of long ago. There's a lot of interesting science fiction in this brilliant novel, but it's not a barn burner. McHugh is not taking sides or portraying communism or Chinese domination as a complete terror. Everyone's just trying to make their way. Because of the ambiguity, this invented near future comes across feeling very real. McHugh's presentation of communes on Mars is an interesting device to further examine social and political themes. Number 8, Martians Go Home by Frederick Brown, published in 1954. Many millions of Martians, little green men, have invaded the Earth. They didn't bring lasers, phasers, or superhuman strength. They brought cutting wit, an acerbic humor, sarcasm, and an ability to disappear and teleport. This is Mars fiction as well as The Pen is Mightier Than the Sword and Words Can Cut Deep fiction. The protagonist, Luke Devereaux, is a sci-fi writer recently divorced. His coping mechanism trifecta includes getting off the grid, getting drunk, and writing sci-fi. Unlike other Mars attack science fiction, the little green guys aren't here to take over or drain our water, oxygen, or other resources. They don't want to conquer, they don't want military dominance, they are obnoxious, and they just want to annoy us. This is like Mystery Science Theater, but with aliens casting shade on everything from the arts, our appearance, and even our sex life. I love this for the humor and also for some clever ways that the author, Brown, communicates with the reader. This is also a great book to toss in the mix if you're in a reading slump. Not everybody's going to laugh out loud, but I expect that many will. There are some unfortunate dated elements that I wish I could remove to make it an even better book. It's still a lot of fun. Number 7, The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. Now we're really talking Mars attacks. Mysterious giant cylinders fall from the sky in the vicinity of Surrey and Welling outside of London. Inside the cylinders, the attackers, Martian tripods. This towering enemy lays waste to towns and blasts the Englishmen and Englishwomen with laser beams. These Martians are formidable, and though Wells imagines some flying machines and some heavy-duty armored destroyers, we really are no match for this level of technology. How will we ever prevail? War of the Worlds is a very comfortable and atmospheric science fiction novel. The English countryside is a bit of a star, and Wells's prose will transport you back to a simpler time, at least simple if you were to overlook the alien attack. The greatest delight of the work is the obvious themes of evolution and parallels or commentary on British imperialism. This story also features one of my all-time favorite vessels, the torpedo ram, Thunderchild. You can find an old, fuller review of the novel on my channel. Number 6, Trouble on Triton by Samuel R. Delany, published in 1976. This brilliant novel by Delany imagines humans spreading out in the solar system and an uber-libertarian society on the Neptunian moon, Triton. Unfortunately, main character Braun Hellstrom just doesn't get it. This is a world where you can be whoever you want to be. Your private life is your private life. Dude, don't even think about treading on me. Braun being a former male prostitute, Martian male prostitute, you might think that he gets the live and let live stuff, but he's oddly almost conservative-minded. This guy's got antiquated ideas about masculinity and ideas of how the world should work. He's also a bit of an ignoramus. He's more of a traditionalist, and he just can't seem to quite fit into this future. There are so many angles from which to approach discussing the brilliance of this novel. Delany was in part influenced to react to Le Guin's The Dispossessed, and presents Braun, who's in no way like Le Guin's Shevek, other than being a man who doesn't quite fit into the worlds around him. There are also parallels in the sense of examining little cousin worlds that have left the original dominant world to become its own, maybe freer place. Another angle is that of examining personal identity. In this far future, individuals can change their gender, sexuality, and other features of their biology. Also clever is the conflict between the Earth and its hostility towards this maybe Tritonian utopia. Also, I've barely even mentioned at all the great science fiction. Don't go into this expecting to sympathize with Braun, and this might be an amazing reading experience for you. Full disclosure, also don't go into this one expecting it to be the most Marsy book on this list. It's not. Number 5 is Red Mars by Stanley Robinson, published in 1992. The red raw terrain of Mars is the solution to a dying Earth. In the 2000s, a group of 100 mostly American and Russian men and women travel on the gigantic spaceship, the Ares, on a voyage to colonize Mars. Robinson focuses the plot on the dynamic relationships between the colonists, debates surrounding terraforming, considerations for the relationship to the Earth they all have left behind, and then what's actually going on the Earth. Brilliant here is Robinson's imagination of how the terraforming of Mars will occur, and what the finished product might look like. The intentions and actions displayed in the process, the world he builds, and the characters are very convincing, and much of it sticks with you long after the impressive final page. This is the first book of the Mars trilogy of novels. The second book, Green Mars, picks up about 50 years later and deeper into the planet's terraforming and the next generation of colonists. The final book, Blue Mars, presents Mars at its most evolved and advanced. At number 4 is The Martian by Andy Weir. If you want a second opinion on this one, take a look at my Behemoth Top 210 Science Fiction Books episode. Among the 100 cameos is Angela from Literature Science Alliance, gushing about this excellent Mars novel. The Martian is one of the great solve-a-problem sci-fi, stranded on another planet, survival, and Martian fiction novels. Astronaut Mark Watney is stranded on Mars. The story is set only a decade from now, and technology is mostly the same. Watney was separated from his crew and left on the planet, presumed dead or at best lost. Is lost really a better scenario, though? He's stranded alone, injured, his spacesuit is ripped, and he's got no way to communicate. This isn't just anybody. This is Mark Watney, astronaut, botanist, engineer with a can-do attitude. Work the problem. Will this be enough to eat, breathe, survive, and get home? It's more than worth a read to find out. Number 3 is Red Rising by Pierce Brown, published in 2014. In Red Rising, the society of the future is caste-based, and the classes are denoted using colors. This is set initially on future Mars. Main character, 16-year-old Darrow, is a red. Reds are the lowest caste, and they're just about as blue-collar as it gets, working in mines and basically discounted by everybody else. Part of the motivation to work comes from the idea that the elements that they mine are significant to the future of a prosperous Mars. Everybody does their part. It's hard not to root for Darrow, a brilliant, brash, aggressive, stubborn, and at times ignorant, confident, and bold infiltrator as he attempts to rise and exist above his initial lot in life. Red Rising is a great space opera, revolution sci-fi, and Mars sci-fi. I love this action-packed series for its vast scope, tension, epic and fantastic war, dystopian world building, and very unique characters. The series evolves and takes many fascinating turns, and it's definitely the type of series where any one of the books could be your favorite. Number 2 is The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch by Philip K. Dick, published in 1964. Dick's science fiction really loves to send people to live on Mars when the Earth goes downhill. I really love Three Stigmata because the experience plays with your mind, and it feels surreal, like a dream, the most vivid dream, but the kind of a dream that isn't clearly organized or its meaning is not interpreted unless you can make sense of how each part, event, character fits as a whole. Because of climate change, the Earth is just too hot to bear. There are too many people and too few resources. The only solution besides trying to fit everybody with climate-controlled suits is to start shipping people off-world. That's exactly what happens. The UN starts drafting people and shipping them off to Mars and elsewhere. Mars is no paradise, and it's not going to be easygoing. Also not surprising with Dick science fiction, people escape or find solace in drugs and spirituality. Colonists living in horrible environments lean heavily into the drug candy and escape into their hallucinations. If you read this book, you'll discover how they use the perky Pat doll to live out virtual experiences and simulated realities. These hallucinations and experiences inspire religious cults to spring up, and that's just the beginning. Palmer Eldritch is a mysterious guy who's been away for a while, far away, like Pluto far, and then some. He returns and he's slinging a new drug, Q-Z. By most measures, Q-Z blows candy out of the water. This is where it gets surreal. Dick blurs the lines between religion, drugs, and hallucination and reality. This is highly philosophical science fiction, and I love where it takes me questioning what each character's true reality is and who exactly Palmer Eldritch is. The number one book on my list today is The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, published in 1950. This is the epitome of Mars fiction. The stories of the Martian Chronicles are science fiction fun and fantastically imaginative. Where my heart goes when I think about what I want from Mars science fiction is rockets going to the moon, unexplored new worlds, first contact with aliens, and of course, things happening not as expected. Wrap this all up in beautiful poetic prose that's always a guarantee from Bradbury, and there's nowhere this could go on the list except the number one spot. This is a fix-up of several short stories that connect well enough to form a full novel. The stories span from the idea of man traveling to Mars, first expeditions, landing on Mars, making first contact, considerations of colonization, and interacting with Martians. A full review of the book would dive deeper into Bradbury's examination of themes of American arrogance, hubris, militarism, and expansion. The thrill of the Martian Chronicles stories is Bradbury's imagination. Imagine we finally make it to Mars, but then we never hear from the crew. Imagine we send rockets again, and this time, the crew makes first contact, but only because in the absence of a greeting party, the crew goes knocking on doors in a suburban neighborhood, only to find dismissive Martians who are annoyed and can't be bothered because they have other little meaningless day-to-day tasks that they're consumed with. Imagine landing on Mars and making first contact and the natives think that you're nuts, or they actively try to make you think that you're nuts and then you're not really on Mars at all. These Martians might not want us and our earthborne diseases infecting their culture and threatening their health and well-being. The book is dramatic, funny, philosophical, serious, whimsical, poetic, fascinating, mesmerizing. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read.